And our second reading is taken from the Gospel of Jesus Christ according to Luke, reading now from chapter 16. There once was a rich man who dressed in the most expensive clothes and lived in great luxury every day. There was also a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who used to be brought to the rich man's door, hoping to eat the bits of food fallen from the rich man's table. Even the dogs would come and lick his sores. The poor man died and was carried by the angels to sit beside Abraham at the feast in heaven. The rich man died and was buried, and in Hades, where he was in great pain, he looked up and saw Abraham far away with Lazarus at his side. So he called out, "Father Abraham, take pity on me, and send Lazarus to dip his finger in some water and cool off my tongue, because I am in great pain in this fire." But Abraham said, "Remember, my son, that in your lifetime you were given all the good things, while Lazarus got all the bad things. But now he is enjoying himself here while you are in great pain. Besides all that, there's a deep pit lying between us, so that those who want to cross over from here to you cannot do so, nor can anyone cross over to us from where you are." The rich man said, "Then I beg you, Father Abraham, send Lazarus to my father's house, where I have 5 brothers. Let him go and warn them, so that they at least will not come to this great house of pain." Abraham said, "Your brothers have Moses and the prophets to warn them. Your brothers should listen to what they say." The rich man answered, "That's not enough, Father Abraham. But if someone were to rise from death and go to them, then they would turn from their sins." But Abraham said, "If they will not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be convinced even if someone were to rise from death." Henry Ward Beecher once wrote, "God asks no one whether they will accept life. That is not the choice. You must take it. The only choice is how you live it." As all of us, I'm sure, recognize, many people choose to live their lives accumulating money. In fact, they are driven to accumulate as much as possible in order that they may satisfy any material desire they may have. And yet, doesn't it seem that when one desire is satisfied, there are countless others, innumerable, to take its place? This seems to be the case for the rich man in our gospel reading this morning. The rich man dressed in very expensive clothes and lived in great luxury every day. He was so rich that he could satisfy almost any material desire he might have. Yet, as we can tell from the story, he was blinded by his wealth. He refused to help or even cast a gaze upon poor Lazarus begging for food at his door. And when it was too late, when from Hades he begged Abraham for help, the life he had chosen and the wealth he had accumulated could not save him. The Apostle Paul writes to his young assistant Timothy, "Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and are caught in the trap of many foolish and harmful desires, which pull them down to ruin and destruction. He further writes, the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Now, admittedly, this is probably the most misrepresented line of text in the entire Bible. Personal opinion. Paul did not write, money is the root of all evil. He wrote, it is the love of money that can cause all sorts of harm. After all, wouldn't I be a hypocrite if I preached anything different when we need money to run this church? We need money to do good in our community. We need money to do Christ's work in the world. In fact, it's probably going to be a message similar to this that I preach most Stewardship Sundays. In other words, money, to me, has a dual purpose. To help us live and function as human beings in our community, but also to help others less fortunate than us. God asks no one whether they will accept life. That is not the choice. The only choice is how we live it. We can live with a generous nature, or we can live as misers. We can live our lives for others, or we can choose to live our lives solely for ourselves. And that truth comes to life for me in this moment, drawn from the life of Mahatma Gandhi. As Gandhi stepped aboard a train one day, one of his shoes slipped off and landed on the track. He was unable to retrieve it as the train was moving. To the amazement of his companions, Gandhi calmly took off his other shoe and threw it back along the track. And it landed fairly close to the first. Asked by a fellow passenger why he did so, Gandhi smiled. "The poor man who finds the shoe lying on the track," he replied, "will now have a pair he can use." Accepting life is not the choice. The only choice is how we live it. And as you'll soon come to learn, I love stories. So let me tell you another little story.